Thank you.
Oh no, let's just stop here.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to Introduction to Mindfulness Meditation. I'm Breckwich Vasquez. I'm your instructor for this series, and I'm very excited to see you, even if it's just your names on the page in front of me. If you were not in the first session last week, please go ahead and chat and put in your name, your pronouns, and your location so we can just keep a mind to who's here and who's new. And for the rest of you and for everyone, I am here with the intention of teaching and learning alongside all of you. Mindfulness meditation is, of course, a lifelong endeavor. I kind of never reach the end of it, so we're always practicing and learning. So I'm here to just share some of those insights with you. And today we're going to be talking about mindfulness of the body. A wonderful, wonderful thing. I will unshare right now these large slides here. All right. I think it's gone back to regular. Okay. And I was just moving my body a little bit to that rhythm. I don't know if anyone else was, but it is really important to feel our bodies again. I feel like we're like leaves in motion. We're kind of coming out with the spring. We're starting to bloom. People are starting to get outside. I feel it the same way with our mindfulness of the body. We can start sort of recognizing what is and start really opening up and moving out. So it's a really good time to be talking about this. I welcome all the new folks and repeat visitors as well. Just looking in to see. Hello, Emily. Hello, Sharon. Hi. Hello, Alejandra. Welcome. Hello, Dolores Bernal. Hello, Loretta. Thank you. Kioronde. I'm not sure if that's the right pronunciation, but welcome, please. And Camila, thank you. All right, so wonderful. And we have some repeat visitors. Hello, hello. So I will share my slides now to look at a different presentation I wanted to have alongside us as we explore this a little bit. I will be using some slides just for those of you who are more visually attuned. So this is what is the plan for today. We will do a little bit of arrival in our bodies, always a really good idea for a mindfulness of the body talk. We'll be checking in on your practice. Hopefully some of you got a few minutes in this last week, and I would love to hear how it went and hear what your experiences with some of this material are, or if you already have some knowledge in this in mindfulness meditation, would love to hear how this is being adapted or brought into some of your practice. We'll then have a talk on mindfulness of the body. Following that, we'll have a deeper practice with meditation on the body, and following that, we'll kind of get into daily practices. And I have a slide on body practices to think about for this week. And then we'll end with questions and reflection. Yeah. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in chat. I believe there's going to be somebody monitoring that during the time that we'll be here so that we can integrate some of those questions if they seem like something relevant to that moment, or we'll hold on to them for the end. And I look forward to answering your questions then. As happened with last week, we didn't, I think we had enough time for questions. We went a little over, so that might be the case today. We're welcome to go over if we need to. But if you have any lingering questions, please do get them back to us, and I will work on some answers, and we can send those out to everyone. Okay. So I would like to hear um, in sharing this week's practice, if any of you wants to reflect on how you did any of the below, the meditation, as well as pausing throughout the day, sort of accepting what is and looking at what is in front of you and really seeing it for what it is, whether it's problems or difficulties or whether it's pleasant experiences, and also turning towards love, always having that compassion as one of the main wings of mindfulness. So that is a little bit of what I'd like to see in chat as before we go into a grounding practice for ourselves, and then we'll come back with some sharing once we've grounded a little bit. So I'm going to stop my share now, but I invite you to be thinking about that and also to be setting that aside as we do a little grounding here. So finding for yourselves a comfortable seat, whatever that looks like, whether it's a position of lying down, sitting down, or standing up. Welcome you to take whatever position is comfortable for you, as long as you are able to remain awake and alert. And also, if you can keep your spine erect or straight, that can help you keep and remain awake and alert. Today, for our arrival, we'll go ahead and close eyes if that's comfortable for you, as it's available to you, or lower your gaze. And you're welcome to have your cameras on or off as is comfortable for you as well. As we begin sitting here, just recognizing that we have a breath that has been going on all day, hopefully, and that we can attune to now. This breath, as we breathe in, we breathe out in our natural rhythm, noticing our chest rise when we breathe in, and our chest falls when we breathe out. Our bellies rise when we breathe in, and they fall when we breathe out. The breath runs through the nostrils, reaching the lungs and back out, and warms our upper lip. You might notice these things, all parts of the breath, as one of your anchors of meditation. And if your mind wanders off, you find yourself in the middle of a thought, that is just fine. That is what the mind does. As with any guest in your home, you might welcome it and then let it go on its way. Always coming back to this breath. Next, we will do some attunement to the sounds in the room or in your body. Just paying attention to what sounds might be in your environment. And when we attune to awareness, it has a caring attention. It doesn't have a judgment or that sound shouldn't be there sort of thing. sounds. Now we focus on our body sensations. You might find your hands are resting on your lap or wherever they're resting, noting how they're touching that surface. The weight of the hands, the warmth or coolness of the hands. The heart pulsing through the hands, the vibrations, and the air around it. As much as we're focused on the hands, we can also do a scan of the body, just noticing what's happening in our body now. You can start at the crown of the head, moving down the face, noticing any tension there. You might now notice any feelings in your shoulders or neck, in your upper back. Any felt sense on your skin. Feeling these sensations in your belly. Your legs, your lower legs, how they're touching the seat if you're sitting, the ground, and your feet against that ground, and the earth rising to meet your feet. Offering stability, protection, and connection with our Mother Earth. And your feet in turn growing, exploring down into the earth, their rootedness. Our body seeking its rootedness constantly. Knowing that we are of the earth. This may feel like a natural connection. And as we take a couple of breaths, feeling all these sensations in our body, hearing all the sounds in our environment, connecting our body, connecting to our bodies. We're arriving in presence. We arrive together. You're arriving in our community here. I invite you to take a deep breath to arrive in your body, and you might stretch out your arms if that feels available to you. Just to take in some of what's around you as your body begins to move again and your eyes begin taking in more light, opening ever so slowly as it feels comfortable for you. So I'd like to, at this moment, check in with everybody to see how the practice went for you this week. If there was a practice, how that was for you, whether you, um, what that experience was like. So I will see if there's any things in chat to reflect on, and I'm happy to hear from folks we didn't hear from last week or folks that had talked last week. You're welcome to unmute as well.
I can share. I'm trying to get to connect on my phone, and I mean on my laptop, so I can see everybody better. But one of the big ahas for me last week was the idea of being present, and I've hated the platitude that it sounded like to me for a very long time. But I finally got what it means to me to do that, and um, I was driving and I was thinking, wait a minute, how exactly am I supposed to be present? I have a stick shift, a car that requires, and then somebody explained to me on Monday that there are some things that we do automatically that is muscle memory, and that's okay. What I wasn't getting was that while I'm driving, I have music on, but many times I get to my office and I have no idea how I got there because I wasn't aware. So even though I'm on autopilot for the driving, I still can be mindful. So I started. It takes a lot of intention for me. I really have to try. So I drove and I was, oh, look, there is somebody walking, and look at the trees, and trying to get my mind to not use that time to be planning things I can do nothing about in the moment anyway. So that was really, really powerful. And what I also found is that when I'm in that state of being present and being in the moment with what is, I'm less likely to do things that are not good for me. I won't eat a whole pint of ice cream if I'm present because I have done that, and I can just eat the whole thing and even not enjoy it and wonder where did it go because I don't feel like I've actually enjoyed it. But things are the other piece that I learn is the part that you said to be with what is, and that's a bigger exercise for me because in front of what is, I want it to be different. So I move away from the experience of the moment, thinking about the ways I can make it different. But I had a surprise that even on unpleasant moments, and I'm talking about mild things, the discomfort goes away faster if I'm present. It's kind of like just ripping the band-aid, just stay with it and then you move through it. But what I used to do, and I'm still getting into the practice of, I used to just not think about it or try to fix it or whatever and spend a lot longer in that place of discomfort that if I just go, yep, that guy just cut me off and I don't know what his story is, and I'm just gonna accept that that's what happened. But I'm not gonna be going farther than oh you're a jerk and but all the things that would. That's an example. I don't have road rage, but that's an example of how even somebody annoying you or something. It's and it doesn't change the environment. It doesn't change what's happening, but it changes you, and that's the only thing you have control over. I was like though I want to be sovereign on my own world, and why would I let someone else impact to that degree my experience? And I know that's easy to say with things that are small. There are other things that are big, but I'm sure that with practice, even the big things would eventually be easier to handle because
Mm.
I also became aware that the fact that I'm meditating or being mindful doesn't mean that life doesn't happen, that unpleasant things don't happen, or that I'm not disappointed or I'm not. So I've been doing this for over 25 years, and finally, I think I'm getting it. So
Hmm.
thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. I appreciate the share. Lots of different points there, and driving is one of those activities that a lot of us get to our destinations and we don't remember. We're not really present. We are so far away in so many ways. And yes, that's when sort of the automatic habituation of grabbing a cell phone can be, because it's a distracted mind. It's interested in more distraction. So yes, it's one thing to really watch that, and especially in the car, being safe. That's it's always, I'm always saying that, and then I always find sometimes that I'm arriving at the location and then I'm present. Yeah. Any other experiences with this week, with breathing, with pausing?
Um, I will share.
Mhm. Please.
Uh, well, I find very useful that sometimes when I get very agitated or I'm not understanding something, I have two teenagers. One brand new, he's 13, and another a master in the matter, he's 18. So fun times. So sometimes I really need to just let go. But as Sandra said, not like because what's the purpose to hold on that, right? So I just try to tell to my own self, say, well, this should pass, and I mean, why in the world I will stick to that and then make a fight? So I try to use my deep breathings, and it helps a lot, honestly. Just to and there's also another technique that you should move your mind to more analytical matters, like probably repeat the times table or something like that. So in order to get away from that area that usually we roam on that, and it's not helpful. So I just try to breathe in, breathe out, and slowly, just like you taught us here, and then making like times table, which I have always been terrible at that. So it takes me even more of my attention. So basically, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing, Luisa.
You're welcome.
What you were talking about reminded me a little bit about how ruminating thoughts that we discussed last week, how they're just so sticky, right? It's hard to kind of get beyond those because we recognize that most of our thoughts are repeats of what we just thought. Like there's nothing really new that we're coming up with. We're just trying to figure out what to do. When it may be that the best thing for the body at that moment is to take a break, so that there is some newer or wiser discernment. There's something different that might come as a result of some space. So we think about meditation, and those times are especially difficult times to do meditation because of the thought. But just recognizing, it's here, touching it, guest, and it leaves. And then going back to this body can find that extra space of some relaxation, despite a lot of the a lot of the activity on the
Yeah,
outside.
I totally agree with you. Yeah, it's not an easy beast to tame. It
Wow.
requires a lot of effort, and you need to practice and be patient and with yourself. And just probably that happens to me. Sometimes I said, well, today I'm going to remain calm. I'm not going to get my the silliness of the teenage things, attitudes trigger me. But then suddenly, in a certain point, I might found myself losing it a little bit, but and then I feel like, oh shoot. But well, I keep on trying, and I know that I will be ready once my eldest become an adult. I don't know. So let's see.
there's either freedom there or freedom within, or maybe both.
Yeah,
One
sure.
thing
Nothing lasts forever, so that's very
I wanted
important.
to, one thing I wanted to mention is that next week we'll be talking about mindfulness of feelings and emotions, and that's a really popular talk because we'll actually give ourselves some strategies and some tools how to kind of deal with that stickiness of emotion, especially when it gets really present and we can't seem to move beyond it. Thank you for sharing, everybody, and happy to also read any chats that might be there. Um, but this is an intro to mindfulness meditation with the idea that you put into practice some of what you're learning here, because there is the idea that yes, possibly this could be all a cognitive experience. You could just sort of take this in, take some notes, kind of look at those notes and reflect, but the practice is where the meeting of the connection will happen in your body, and as Luisa mentioned, it just comes with time and being patient with yourself. At the very least, you get some good stillness out of it, and we'll talk about slowness and stillness today. So I'd like to move forward here and see if you can still see. Let's see, I'll share this. Let me sort of see where we are here. Um, so we'll have a little bit of a talk, and I wanted to introduce this quote from Jack Kornfield, who is an internationally renowned meditation teacher and psychologist. He's one of the folks responsible for bringing a lot of the Buddhist practices to the West. And he says, in the Buddhist way of understanding, our human body is precious because it provides the necessary conditions to realize freedom and true happiness. We begin with a systematic training of the body in sitting and walking, in eating and moving. We cultivate mindfulness. We develop the ability to come into the life of the body. We notice suffering or well-being arising in the body. We discover how our body responds when our mind is clear or confused, when our heart is open or closed. We learn to hold the mystery of bodily life with respect. There's something very, it connects me to this, about this preciousness of the body. So I want to talk a little bit about what that means to me in my understandings about some of this practice. So at a basic level, it's called the first level of awareness. Being mindful of the body prioritizes our senses. So we know this. We've got these senses, and how can our senses, though? How can they hold the key to our subconscious intelligence and heart? So after all, you might notice that you contract or pull away from things that you don't like, and you kind of move towards things that you do like. So there's this kind of how your instincts prefer certain sensations. And but what can we learn from these kind of senses that are so sort of conditioned to responding to things? So do we really have control over these senses, or how can we better understand them? So I'd like to think of this as the senses as being the first barometer of how our body is reacting to our environment. This is not new. This is ancient knowledge that's built up through our bodies about survival. It's an opportunity to then note how your body feels different things. So especially how it feels different things before the emotions take hold, and what I call the larger field, or the minefield of emotions, because those are, when you get into emotion land, of course things seem overwhelming and confusing, and it's very difficult to discern what is the right step. What you're having so much more difficulty accessing your cognitive mind to be able to make a decision in that moment. So connecting, then the argument is to connect to our senses, whether they're positive, negative, or neutral, gives us back some control where we can develop wiser responses. Sebene Selassie, she's the author of this book called You Belong. She's a meditation teacher and a 3-time breast cancer survivor. She asks us to stop at any moment, and we can do that now as we're sitting, lying down, or standing up, to ask yourself these 3 questions. So if you could just quiet yourself down, stillness, get into stillness and listen to these 3 questions, and try not to have a judgment or attachment to the results. Can I feel my body right now? That's the first question. Second question, am I thinking about my body, or am I actually sensing my body? And the third question is, can I name the sensations that I'm feeling? So this kind of pausing and assessing at regular moments can get us into that sense of connecting with our body before we start arriving at strong feelings or emotions. We can start gauging how we're feeling in any moment by paying attention to those senses. Sebene, she goes on to note that often we don't appreciate our bodies because we don't feel them. And this is where trauma comes in. We might have some ideas about the body, but we don't actually sense our bodies. This is especially true for those of us with trauma in the body. We might not feel anything at all, or we might feel numb. For those of us who are BIPOC folks, there could be a separation from our bodies because we might feel unsafe at certain times, a rejection of them. And of course, this kind of dissociation from our bodies is causing a lot of suffering. So in addition to our felt senses right now, another way of taking note of your body sensations is through memory connection. And I want to tell you a little story of my kind of connection to these memories. So many years ago, I experienced a really tough year. It was a year of some great loss for me. I was taking care of my sick mother for several months, and she died unexpectedly. Then my marriage fell apart, and I found I needed to heal. So I moved to the Peruvian Amazon for a few months. I was seeking some healing and insight from ayahuasca. It's an ancient root that cleanses the soul and opens the heart, mind to visions that really sort of pinpoint what's happening for you. I spent some months there, and they seemed like years. My senses were on overdrive. I can still recall the firelight of the ayahuasca ceremonies, the warm air of that place. I can feel the itchiness of the mosquito bites. I could hear the birds' night calls, the dirt smells of the wet forest, the soothing sounds of the river. So I had a few months of reflection there to heal my grief. They're still pretty fresh and palpable. So I remember that humidity. My body registers that, the slowness. It remembers the repetition of those days. I really connected deeply with myself in that forest. So memories oftentimes are stored in our senses. We know this through olfactory memories. When we smell something, suddenly we're back in our childhood, right? And when it rains a lot here in the Pacific Northwest, I smell into the Amazon rainforest again. So that's a good thing to connect into how at least that kind of sensory memory is allows you to reconnect. There's another well-known Buddhist. He's a monk. His name is Ajahn Susito. He's based in England, and he says embodiment is a touchstone for deep sanity where we come back to our fundamental senses. It's a domain we cannot be separated from, although we do separate ourselves from it. But why do we separate ourselves from these fundamental senses? And some of you may say, well, of course, we're all in our heads. Absolutely. This mainstream culture sort of privileges the mind over the body. We begin thinking about the body just in terms of its sort of spectacle nature or something we have to maintain. But there are specific meditation instructions help us simply recognize thinking as thinking and then returning to the moment-to-moment experience of our body sensations or sounds around our bodies, because these are the reality that is unfolding around us. The thinking is not the reality. The thinking are our own perceptions of reality. So sometimes we can get really busy, of course, the busyness of our lives and the speed of our society. This adds to being disembodied. We don't have time to settle and be aware of our basic sensations. We have a habit of moving too fast, and I know this because my ancestors are Andean Highlanders, and they move very fast, and they're up at 3 a.m, and they're always active, always trying to figure out what needs to be done. So I come from that sort of very fast-moving, airy kind of people. Here's the case of 2 lab rats. One is sitting on the wheel, and the other one is running and running on this wheel for no good reason that either one knows. And the one sitting says, I just had an epiphany. So, I ask ourselves, are we going too fast that we don't even realize we can slow down or step off? Easy to say, right? These days, it's sort of, that's the expectation, like we said last week with productivity and multitasking. Dr. Sarah Sarkis, she's a renowned blogger and psychologist. She writes, feeling the need to be busy all the time is a trauma response and a fear-based distraction from what you'd be forced to acknowledge if you just slowed down. I have this poster in my bathroom because it is a constant reminder about how much I put myself through. So the key to embodied awareness is taking opportunities to be still, or at least slowing down. As we say in Spanish, con calma, with calm, with ease. This allows us to even see if the body needs rest, if it needs water, whether there's tension, to attend to that tension. If there's pain, we need to move away in a way that's less painful. This slowing down to listen to the silence and heal the body. This ideally helps us transition from what we call FOMO to JOMO, the fear of missing out, which is this idea that each next opportunity I have to sign up for, oh my gosh, I've got to go to this thing. If not, I'll lose out somehow. The fear of missing out. Versus the JOMO, right? The joy of missing out, just actually choosing to not engage in all those ways. Once the body gets quiet, the mind can also quiet down. So some of us are wondering how to calm this really busy mind. Well, we might actually have to calm the body first in order for the mind to settle down as well. We can discover all sorts of realities that we're living that is right underneath our perception, right? Ways to pay attention to what's actually here now. Quieting down can also help us reveal some strong emotion underneath that we haven't been aware of or had time to deal with. In fact, actually realizing and staying with the stress or pain in the body and slowly letting it go can actually help us calm the intrusive thoughts that can be difficult to let go. But whoops. Richard Wagamisi, he's a famous Ojibwa storyteller. He died in 2017. He was an award-winning author, newspaper columnist. He was the author of the book made into the Netflix special called Indian Horse. Some of you may know that. It's a Canadian. He's a Canadian. He writes, "I am my silence. I am not the busyness of my thoughts or the daily rhythm of my actions. I'm not the stuff that constitutes my world. I'm not my talk. I'm not my actions. I am my silence. I am the consciousness that perceives all these things. When I go to my consciousness, to that great pool of silence that observes the intricacies of my life, I am aware that I am me. I take a little time each day to sit in silence so that I can move outward in balance into the great clamor of living." So I just really enjoy that. Also something I have in my office, the reminder to sit in silence, being a very healing process. There's another aspect of mindfulness of the body that I want to visit, which is belonging. This is a really important one for me as a mixed race woman that had Spanish as her first language. Identity formation, obviously, and belonging have been central themes for me in my life and for a lot of people that I know. Feeling like you never really belong in either culture, and often being called othering names by both family and extended friends, etc., doesn't help either. But Sebene Selassie, in that book I was talking about, she writes about this concept of belonging from her own challenges as an Ethiopian-born woman living in New York. She says that we can feel a sense of belonging in our bodies even when we don't feel that we belong anywhere else. When I read that in her book, it was life-altering for me. I finally had a home. So staying connected to the body and the ground through our meditation practice can help us restore this kind of reclamation to our own body as our home, as belonging to ourselves. So through all of these sorts of things that I've brought up here, embodiment can in fact lead to the most profound self-connection and healing. And through our senses, we can see life unfolding around us. We can deepen our connections with our lived experience. We can reduce disembodiment. We can slow down perhaps and increase our belongingness to our bodies. But this kind of transformation happens with practice. It's not by getting somewhere or gaining anything, but recognizing the right here and right now. It really isn't that far away. Thanks. So, looking at the time, I would like to have a meditation practice, relatively maybe a few minutes here, and then some question and answer if that's okay. Do we have any questions so far that I should know about?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, Vicky, looks like you've got just a few comments, but that's it.
Okay. I'll look through some of this at the end too. So let's try an embodiment practice here. Let's take a moment to reconnect with these precious human bodies. So again, you're welcome to find a position that's comfortable to you, whether it's sitting, lying down, or standing up, just as long as you're awake and alert. And you can feel free to close your eyes if that's available to you, or cast your eyes down towards the floor. What we're going to begin with is 3 deep and full breaths together, with slow, deep inhales through your nose or mouth and slow, deep exhales through your nose or mouth. And allowing your breath to come back to its natural rhythm, not forced in any way, as one of your anchors that we can connect to during this practice. And in this particular practice, I'll ask you if you feel comfortable and if it's available to you to put your hand on your heart or your chest, and take the other hand, if that's available to you, on your belly or your thighs. Just connecting to these spaces here. And now feeling your feet at the same time against the floor of a surface or a surface. All of this body connected. Through your hands on your body, feeling what your skin feels like. Your skin through your clothes, feeling if there's tension, if there's holding, or freedom. Or ease. Maybe there is pain. And just noting that with loving attention that is gentle and kind. And if there are areas of your body that you are feeling that are numb, that's okay. And noting your mind wandering, allowing those thoughts to be touched upon and let go. And then coming back to that hand on your chest, that hand on your thighs or belly. Being with yourself right now. Taking time. We're returning to our precious body. This is the home of our belonging. You may keep your eyes closed as I end my talk with a quote by Dr. Margarita Loinaz. She's a Dominican physician and mindfulness teacher. She says, at the core of our being is an openness and tenderness that allows us to fully appreciate the preciousness of our human embodiment. As we enter into a deeper intimacy with our direct experience, we are weaving ourselves back into the fabric of life itself. And we're able to receive the needed guidance to consciously participate in this moment of profound planetary transformation. So I'm going to ring the bell in a moment, and take your time to come back after you hear this bell to re-engage your body. Allow yourself to move your hands, move your feet, stretch out your arms, readjust to come back to the space. And I'd like to move into a slide on body practices that I encourage you to connect with this week if there's time. Oh, I don't know where we are. Let's see here. Here we go. So, keeping your safety and comfort first, not doing anything that doesn't feel safe or comfortable or you're quite ready for yet. There's the idea that sensing your body versus thinking about your body. This is what Sebene Selassie asked us at the beginning, towards the beginning. Noticing what sensations are present without judging them. So you might feel a sensation of pain or prickliness that you might not want to be there. And the idea is just to note that it is there. Next week, when we cover feelings and emotions, we'll go through a set of tools that you can use to understand things and to nurture yourself. In terms of body intersecting with breath, you could practice a focus of movement of the breath in the nostrils. That is a way to pay attention to both the breath and your felt sense. Also, touch points on the body as we went from head to toe. You can try just in different ways during the week, feeling what it is that is going on in your body as you pause. Grounding exercises such as the one we did early on today and the first thing last week are options for you. Body scans as well, where you're able to note what is happening and possibly release any tension that's there. So it's an active practice. And then always remembering to re-inhabit your body with this kind of what we call calm gentleness and caring, as opposed to like sort of a judgment of the body. We have a lot of that going on. So this is an opportunity to do something different with our attention to our bodies. So I will stop there and take any questions or reflections on any of what we've been practicing here or have said here.
I had posted a question about how we know whether we are in our body or not. But I think those practices will answer that question personally for me. So,
Thank you, Sandra. It's good to know. Jomo, yes. Yeah, you're welcome to use that slide.
there's a great question on the chat too. If Sharon is asking, can you talk a little more about the difference between thinking about the body and sensing it? I think that's a great question.
It is, and it's a really difficult one, and I'm still practicing with that because the mind. So when you'll find that you're thinking about the body, you usually that's when judgments will come in. You'll have a story about something, and that's when you know you're thinking about it. So I may have a sensation of pain in my foot when I step on a thumbtack in my office, right? So the first thing is the sensation. That is a legit body sensation coming from that feeling. And then I've got the story around that sensation, which is, why did my partner leave thumbtacks on the floor? And the dogs could have injured themselves, and we have to do more cleaning around here. And oh, my foot still hurts. I wonder if I'm going to be able to run my marathon tomorrow. The sensations are devoid usually of a story. So when your mind starts going into story, you know that you're in that kind of land. Other kinds of sensations you might break down to positive, negative, or neutral. It's as simple as that sometimes. Whether it's a sensation is a positive one, kind of makes you want to move towards it. Negative one makes you want to move away from it. Or neutral, you don't kind of know how to really feel that. Um, but then when you start using other adjectives, that's when it can. That's one of the things I can look more into that between meetings, between now and next week, and put more time to think on that. But those are some early thoughts I had on that. Thanks for your question, Sharon.
I have something real quick to share that it's my experience. I realized after reading different authors and different ways of seeing life itself that I don't know if you ever had this moment in your life, and if not, I will invite you to try it. Is that we are always seeing everything from inside us. I don't know if I will be able to explain myself. We we are like when you see a movie and you see the camera moving, like trying to pretend that you are the character, the main character. That's how we really see our lives, unless you stand up in front of a mirror. But the most of the time you are seeing your hands like this from this perspective. I don't know if you get it what I'm trying to say. And that makes, when you're aware of that, that makes a very particular sense of that you realize that you are inside this, right? So, and you are never able to be outside of this, because this is your vehicle, right? So this is where you moved. And I don't know if that's something that I'm a cancer survivor as well. And recently, I mean, I cannot say exactly because I'm on remission, but I remember when I was diagnosed with that, my very first reaction was the common one, like, why me? And hating cancer and feeling like I was punished or like a victim, right? But then it was like something magical happened to me. You want to believe me or not, but I switched my mind and I start thinking, like, with curiosity, like, why is this happening to me? Instead of like blaming something or someone with this. And then I was like, when they said might end up with a mastectomy or something, I was like, um, at first I don't know, it was like, oh no. But then I was like, well, this is just a body, right? I'm not this, I'm inside this. So I started to see life that in that way. Like I'm just using this in this planet, in this realm, or whatever you want to call it, to move around and to feel and experience the human experience. But I'm not this, right? Because at the end of the day, this is a coincidence of casuality that I'm this color, I'm from this country and this or that or whatever. And but at the end of the day, we all are the same thing inside of these different bodies. And I'm sorry if I expand myself. I just get sometimes very passionate about it because I try people to understand and probably find this useful for themselves to stop judging themselves with in front of a mirror or whatever, because you at the end of the day are not that. You are way more than that. The end. Thank you.
And much more to come, because I'll tell you, this is a lifelong thing, getting used to what is the self. That we could go on a whole nother tangent and wonderful class on that. What is the self? It is, there is the Buddhist idea of emptiness. There is no self that you can point to. This is all skin, bones, all material of the earth. We're four elements, same as outside, same inside. There's a meditation about that too. But yes, thank you, Luisa. So if there are no other questions, I have some final words. If you can find at least 1 to 5 minutes to practice per day, to find some stillness, some joy of missing out, some focusing on your breath, your sounds, body sensations, focusing on the body, sensations of the body, positive, negative, neutral, pondering belonging in that body. And like Luisa says, seeing yourself from within your body. And I think that we could have some really great conversations next week about what that was like, really inhabiting your body. So we'll check in again next week. I really look forward to hearing what you come up with and what your experiences are. And thank you for taking these steps towards yourselves. You know, this is really important for all of us to be in this journey together. And as a community, we can also hold each other up to being able to be more aware of ourselves and more awake. So we will go ahead and send the Google Doc as a follow-up along with the recording here in the next few days. So as in the Google Doc, you'll have all the access to the different sounds that you heard, the music here, and the different quotes that I was reading. Well, thank you everybody for joining. I hope we see each other again next week. Take good care.